I didn't even have a stethoscope. I didn't have the ability to write a prescription, called scripts here, for a patient. I also had to plug into the system to refer patients to tests and specialists. It'll be a few days before I can start seeing patients. Yeah, that's what I thought. People in the neighborhood had a very different opinion. And then it started, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown. Nicole yelled at the top of her voice. What? You have to come out here now. Why? Just come out. Hurry up. Okay. I walked out to the waiting area. There was a man sitting there with his arm wrapped in a towel, and a woman with him. He looked pale, like he was about to pass out. That's it, the woman started, holding out a plastic bag to me. I looked at it, and in it was what looked like a finger. Oh, he cut his finger off in the tractor engine. I told him to be careful, but he never listens to me. My first real patient in Ireland. Go back to the exam room, I looked at Nicole. Call the hospital and TR and tell them I need them to try and reattach this man's finger. Then call an ambulance to get here as soon as possible. I had nothing but basic supplies to treat him. I sat him in a chair and asked him to put his hand on the examination table. Slowly, I turned his hand around to see the actual damage. There were 2 fingers missing. Did you find the second finger? I asked his wife. She hummed, no, that's the only thing I could find. She pointed her finger at the bag. Okay, I need to stabilize this wound and let's do what we can so the doctor at the hospital can try to reattach it. My first task was to reduce blood loss and treat the injury until the ambulance arrived. An hour later, my patient was on his way to the hospital. I was able to manage the blood loss and stabilize his condition. He turned very pale and started to lose consciousness when I unclasped his arm. I probably would have done the same thing if it had been my hand. The pinky and ring finger of his left hand were injured, and apparently it was the ring finger that had been in the plastic sandwich bag his wife had. I put ice on the finger and sent him to the hospital with them. So, this was my first patient. My secretary managed to get the man's name from his wife, and she even offered his national medical card. I had completely forgotten about it at home. My job was to operate and treat people. I didn't worry about health insurance. The administrative staff took care of that. Later that day, Laura Tompkins, the regional NR, stopped by. She is a very busy woman and didn't stay long. She gave me her business card. We chatted for just a few minutes, and then she had to leave to pick up her daughter. I learned from Nicole that she was a single mom and lived in the neighborhood. I put that information aside for the future. I needed a place to live. The boarding house wasn't bad, but there was no privacy from Mary and Bill's prying eyes, and I wanted my own space. It didn't have to be big. A tiny 1-bedroom house was all I needed, and I wanted a reasonable kitchen so I could get my own food. I needed a place to park my motorcycle and possibly store my bike if I got one later. The apartment needed to be furnished because this was a short-term endeavor, and I didn't want to get rid of much when it came time to move, most likely back to the U.S. I contacted a real estate agent and began my search. The search lasted about an hour. The agent was Josephine Landers. She was a nice lady in her 40s, a little chubby but not unattractive. She knew I would need a place to live and had already picked it out for me. As I said about small towns, any news spreads very quickly. The apartment, that's what they call condos here, was about 50 square meters, that's about 500 square feet, and it had everything I wanted. I already had my name on the door, Dr. Aaron Brown, MD. There's nothing better than being confident. Josephine proudly walked me through the apartment and pointed out all the elements that would be useful to me during my stay in the city. The apartment had many windows and a beautiful view of the fields down to the water. There was even a balcony where you could have your morning coffee or sit at the end of the day. She had thought of every detail. Linens and towels are easy to find. We have stores right here in town that can provide anything you will need, and I have alerted them to be ready to provide everything you need. All they need to know is what color you prefer. The woman had it all covered. This place really needed a doctor. I looked at her with a slight smirk. Sounds like you've thought of everything, she smiled back. Just trying to be helpful to my client. Later, I thanked Mary and Bill for taking care of me and carried my one bag of belongings from the boarding house to the apartment. When I entered the house, I said to none other than the walls, "I'm home." Well, this will be home, at least for now. I went around the stores, picked out some bedding, a couple of pillows, and 2 towels, and took them to the apartment. I ran them through the washing machine and then made the bed. Next was the food. I walked a couple of blocks to the market and stocked up on the essentials, including beer and wine. I don't know why I bought wine. I don't drink it often, usually only in the company of women and when it seems appropriate to what I'm eating or doing. But I did buy a bottle of white wine. It all went into the fridge, but the wine didn't stay there long. There was a knock on the door. Amelia Josephine pulled into the station and reported, "Everything is ready. Here's the address." She handed me a card with the address of the apartment Aaron was renting. I tucked it into my pocket and went home at the end of the shift to freshen up and change into more appropriate clothes. After taking a shower, I washed off the heaviness of the day, then put on some tight jeans and a sleeveless blouse, put on some eye makeup, and was ready to go out. I called a Chinese coffee shop and ordered food. I stopped by there and picked up my food, and then drove to the address Josephine had given me. I rang the bell, and after a couple of minutes, I heard, "Hello, how can I help you?" I laughed. "Police, open up." Then there was the sound of the door opening, and I walked in. I heard the door on the second level open. I went up the stairs. "We heard that someone might have broken into the house, so I came to check," he smiled. "Do you always bring food for trespassers?" "Just the ones I like, Aaron." Waking up in someone else's bed, I realized I was in my new temporary apartment. I also realized I wasn't alone. I looked at my cell phone to check the time. It was time to get moving. I nudged my partner lightly on the bed. "Amelia, I have to go." She yawned. "What time is it?" 6:39. I need to get cleaned up and report to my new place of employment. I went to the washroom, emptied my bladder, and turned on the shower. The water heated up in a few moments, and I jumped in. Amelia joined me a moment later. That's where it all started. James Little is a lawyer. Why can't people put 2 and 2 together and come up with something close to 4? Because they don't want to do it, that's why. And Aaron's wife, Maddie, refuses to realize that Aaron no longer wants anything to do with her. Her affair with a teacher soccer coach was the end of their marriage, especially when she had a child with him. Is that really so hard to understand? But she refuses to admit that Aaron is done with her, finished, kaput. I filed the paperwork with the court and delivered copies to her. I told her to have her attorney review everything, and we would set up an appointment to iron out the minor details. It was a simple divorce, but she is determined to turn it into a protracted case. It's only going to make her attorney fees more expensive. The fact that Aaron has left the country is also an indication of the court's intentions. The New York Supreme Court hears divorce cases, and I have a hearing scheduled for next week. It's all routine stuff for the court. I have DNA testing and photos of my client that I want to introduce into the case to prove that the child is not his. I want to get a court order to force the real father to provide the DNA sample and thus delay the child support issue for him. I advised her attorney to seek marriage counseling. I could easily object. My client left the country to find a new job. Besides, marriage counseling has to be agreed to by both parties, otherwise, it's just a waste of time and money. No, that's not an option. Madeline also wanted to know where Aaron was and wanted to know how to contact him. I had no right to give her this information and told her so. Her attorney tried to intimidate me by saying she would file a motion in court to force me to divulge this information. I'm not sure if she paid attention to it that day in law school, but it's part of the attorney-client privilege. Oh yeah, Madeline even parked her ass outside my office waiting to meet me. She was sure Aaron would do a great job as her daughter's father. She'd even brought the baby with her. I took one look at the baby, just a normal toddler. They all look alike to me, except she's not Aaron's baby. If you have eyes, you can guess that. I decided that I would try to get the baby brought to court so the judge could take a look at her. That would clear things up quickly. I told my secretary not to let her in again unless she wanted me to represent her in another case, but only after this one was closed, of course. The whole reason she wants Aaron to come home and take the place of a husband again is because of money. The father of her child, a teacher soccer coach, has a wife and kids, and he's not rich. He lives on a teacher's salary, and his wife works as a business manager at a small car dealership. The pay is good, but again, no one got rich working there. Between the mortgage, monthly bills, food, and the cost of maintaining 2 cars, they work for his pension. Her job doesn't have a retirement plan. Fortunately, his job includes health insurance. No, Meline wants Aaron's to be able to earn, plain and simple. She won't get it. The reality of the situation was that Aaron had given up everything they had. She hasn't realized that yet. She has the house and all its contents, as well as the car. She can sell it all if she wants and move into an apartment or condo, her choice. The house is in foreclosure, but Aaron has already signed away his rights to it. When the house is sold, there should be enough money left over to make a nice down payment for a modest 2-bedroom condo, perhaps. It's about money, period. Laura Tompkins, NP. I plan to visit the American doctor who was persuaded by Mayor Castler to stay on for a while to replace Dr. Kennedy when he retired. The fact that he retired was a good thing. He had long since expired. I corrected many of his mistakes, but couldn't always be there for him. He ended up prescribing the wrong thing and seriously injuring or killing the patient. So it was good that he retired. I met the new doc, Aaron Brown. I think his name is Hank, nice looking. Hank, a surgeon too. The local rumor mill quickly spread the word about him and his almost ex-wife. The mayor has ordered security to investigate to find out who and what he is. The medical staff in Dublin contacted the Yanks, and they told him about his medical background and biography. Unmarried women in the neighborhood would line up to see him and get checked out. They will have a host of minor ailments that will cause them to have to get naked for the doctor to examine them. Yes, between work and my daughter, I don't have time to socialize, but I can find time to go into his office and talk to him about the challenges of caring for some of my patients. It will give me a chance to be alone with him. I'll have to dress nice that day. Aaron, my secretary, is tired of answering the phone and talking to people who want to come to the doctor's office. They wait outside the office when I get there in the morning. I have noticed that the people who want to see the doctor are predominantly women. Maybe it is better for them to see a female doctor-nurse practitioner. Laura Tompkins may be a better choice for many of them, especially for more routine issues. I'll give her a call and ask her to come in when she has some free time, and we can talk about what she does and how we can work together more effectively. Laura Tompkins, NP, my cell phone rang. I drove to the next patient and pressed the button on the steering wheel to answer it. Hello? Hi, is this Laura Tompkins? Yes, that's right. Who could you be? Good morning, I'm Aaron Brown, a substitute physician at Castleroy. Dr. Brown, how can I help you? I thought I knew how he could help me. I was wondering if we could get together to talk about the local health needs. I'm only filling in for you for a few months until they send a permanent doctor here, but I'm concerned that I don't know how things are usually done here. I'm on my own, and I need help. It would be nice if you and I could talk. When would you like to do that? Well, when you have time. I'll make the time. This is very important to me. I thought for a bit. I'm driving right now. I have a patient, but I'll call you later, and we can find a time that works for both of us, if that's okay with you. That would be great. Give me a call and let me know what works. Like I said, I really need your help. I started to come up with a plan in my mind. It would take a little time, but I had it. And who knows, maybe Dr. Aaron Brown had it too. We'll see. 2 days later, I got a call from Laura Tompkins, a local nurse practitioner, inviting me to her house for dinner. Who am I to turn down a home-cooked meal? I went. It was a short walk to her house. I decided to get a bottle of wine. I took two, one red and one white. I had no idea what she liked or if she liked wine at all. Irish women all seem to like wine. The woman at the store where I bought the wine made some recommendations, and I agreed with them. I knocked on the door, and a tiny girl answered me. She looked about 3 or 4 years old to me. She looked at me with an expression mixed with curiosity and surprise. She turned her head and screamed, "Mommy, that American is here." I heard movement approaching the door. "Dr. Brown, please come in." The little one stood to the side and slightly behind her mother. Big welcomed me with a smile and waved, inviting me into the house. "She's gorgeous," I said. Laura Tompkins is about 30 years old, I think, about 5 feet 9 inches tall, very good-looking, long dark hair, and weighs no more than 130 to 135 pounds. I am constantly amazed by Irish women. I stood there like a deer in headlights until I remembered I had brought my wine with me, and it was in a bag in my left hand. Where are my manners? I looked at the crumb and held out my hand. "Hello, I'm Erin, and who are you?" Her expression brightened a little. "My name is Matilda. I'm 4 years old, and my favorite book is Winnie the Pooh." "Well, Matilda, it's a pleasure to meet you and learn about Winnie the Pooh. Tigger is my personal favorite." I handed the wine to Nurse Tompkins and waited for them to escort me to the kitchen or dining room. "I have no idea if you like wine, so Mrs. Billings at the store recommended both of these glasses. If you don't like them, I'll be happy to replace them with others." Laura smiled. Miss Billings knows a thing or two about wine. Sometimes she likes it too much, but this is a good one. Would you be so kind as to open a white and pour us both a glass? If you like wine. If you don't like wine, I have beer. Wine will be just fine. I busied myself with the cork and the 2 glasses that had been handed to me. I was under Matilda's scrutiny. I turned to her. "Are you drinking wine?" Laura watched me and smiled. "No, you're stupid. Kids don't drink wine. We drink juice. I'll have an orange juice, please." "It's good to know. When I meet the other kids, I won't offer them wine." I tried not to laugh. "She's very sweet," Laura smiled. The whole time she was preparing our food, I offered to help but was refused in favor of being entertained by Matilda. She was adamant that I listen to her attentively. She went off to her room and returned with a coloring book and crayons. I was politely asked to help color some of the animals on the farm. When I wanted to color a pig with a red crayon, I was told quite clearly that the pigs were not red but beige. That's right. Dinner was beef stew with fresh cookies. We drank some more wine, and then Matilda was told to go put on her pajamas and brush her teeth. She came back a few minutes later and said I was going to read her a bedtime story, Winnie the Pooh. I looked at her mom, and she just looked at me and told Matilda to go get a book, and we could read together in the living room. While I was reading to Matilda, Laura was tidying up the kitchen and putting leftovers in the refrigerator. I watched her out of the corner of my eye and thought, this is what a real family does. This is what real life is like. Laura Erin was captivated by my daughter. She is tiny but very effective at conquering the biggest of them all, but there was one she couldn't conquer, her father. I don't often invite men into my home, much less share dinner with me and my daughter, but this time was different. I had a pretty good idea of the man. I had information from several sources and, of course, all the things he'd done since he'd come to our shores. The fact that he was on the run from an unfaithful wife made him interesting. He knew the same pain I did. I packed Matilda's things and left her father in Dublin. I couldn't bear his disrespect. I realized that he didn't want a daughter and didn't want to take responsibility for a family at all. It was his loss. I also knew I had competition in Amelia Kelly. She was good with men, a little younger than me and prettier. But in a head-to-head competition, I had help, and I knew what Dr. Aaron Brown wanted. The look on his face as he read to Matilda spoke volumes. Aaron, dinner with Laura was excellent. The meeting with Matilda was very interesting. I got back to my apartment around midnight, took a shower, and went to bed. If the last few days had been any indication, tomorrow was going to be a busy day. Just as I settled down on the bed, my cell phone rang. The number was from the U.S., but displayed as an unknown number. I could have ignored it, but I was concerned that it might be a call from my mother or father. I answered, "Hi, Aaron, is that you?" I immediately realized who it was and didn't want to talk to her. "Maddie, if you have something to say to me, please do it through Jimmy. I don't want to talk to you." "Aaron, please don't hang up the phone. Please let me talk to you." "Maddie, we have nothing to talk about. You've said everything that needed to be said. Goodbye," but I hung up and blocked the number. "Amelia, my sources tell me I have competition for Dr. Brown's attention. Nurse Hattie seems to be a contender. She's certainly attractive and has her charms, but I have the advantage of not having been married before and having no children. I need to think about it and make a plan for how to proceed. Jimmy, that woman is turning into a pest. Aaron doesn't pay me enough to put up with her constant harassment. She's been told countless times that he won't talk to her, but she persists. She's nothing if not persistent. What bugs me the most is that she sicked her own boyfriend on him and got him pregnant, and now she wants Aaron to ignore her and go back to her. She's delusional. Damn, Aaron texted me that she somehow got his phone number in Ireland and called him. He wants me to get a restraining order from the court so she doesn't bother him. I am trying to get a judge to agree to that. In this state, divorce judges don't like to issue restraining orders unless there is a threat of physical violence. It's going to be hard to prove in this case, but I'll try. I told my client that I don't hold out much hope that we can get a restraining order. Laura, it had been a few weeks since I had met Aaron Brown, and he had already come to my house 3 times for dinner. On Saturday, he took Matilda and me out for a walk and a picnic, and we had a great time. We went to Killarney National Park, where I've been many times, and walked some trails Matilda wanted to ride on Aaron's shoulders, and he put her on there for a while. We had lunch at the Ladies' View Cafe, and after lunch, we went to Torque Falls and took some pictures that he wanted to send to Mom and Dad. That night, as Matilda lay in bed and slept soundly, we made love for the first time. I know I was nervous because he was the first man I had been with since my divorce. We spent the night together and woke up together in the morning. "Aaron, Jimmy called me with the news of my divorce. My ex-wife doesn't seem to realize that I'm no longer interested in marrying her. The fact that she was having fun with another guy and had a child with him is not something I am willing to overlook. Jimmy, what the hell is going on?" He hesitated for only a second. "I wish I knew, Aaron. I've been trying to get her to sign the papers and finish the job, but I've had no luck. I think we need to go to Plan B." "Okay, what's Plan B?" "I'm going back to court and filing for a different reason. I can explain to the judge what happened with the child and see if that spurs the situation. I can file for another reason too, but it doesn't make sense since you are the one who left. It should only take a year in New York State, and then it will happen automatically, but since you're the one who left, a judge might look at it differently. What about Plan A, irreconcilable differences? Wasn't that the right thing to do?" "That's what I thought, but the judge talked about you coming home and going to counseling. I told her you have a job in another country, and she asked when you were going to come back to the United States. I replied to her that you have no immediate plans. Oh, for heaven's sake, give me a divorce. I don't care how you do it, just do it, please. Are you coming back?" "Not while I'm still married to her." I was sure I heard Jimmy say very quietly, "Make it happen, okay?" "I'm working on it." "Maddie, I called Aaron's mother and talked to her about where Aaron was. She couldn't keep a secret and told me he was in Ireland. All I had to do was find out where he was, go to him, and fix it. I figured I could accomplish this by seeing and talking to Aaron. We had been married for 4 years when I started seeing Roger. I admit that Roger was a mistake, but I was single, and Aaron was in the hospital all the time. We talked a lot about starting a family. When I told Aaron that I was pregnant, he was very excited. He worked with me to paint and decorate the baby's room and gather all the things I needed. He was constantly bringing home something new for the baby. He even bought a baseball glove for the baby. He said it didn't matter if we had a boy or a girl, he was going to teach our baby how to play baseball. Aaron will realize it was a mistake to leave us. He'll love that baby when he holds her in his arms. I know he will. Roger has been avoiding me the last few times I tried to talk to him. He didn't answer, and when I went to school, I saw that he ran away as soon as he saw me. I wonder if his wife knows about us. Maybe that's why he's avoiding me. I have to find out where Aaron is in Ireland. Then I'll get on a plane and go to him. Aaron, the hospital called and the head of the surgical department said I had to come in for 3 days and help them with their backlog of surgeries. Their orthopedic doctor got sick, and they had to cancel a bunch of surgeries. Doc was going to be out for a while as she was being treated for cancer. It was really bad. They needed help, and I was there for them. I agreed to come for 3 days to help them and work on the list that had accumulated over the past month. That morning, as I was getting on my motorcycle to head to Tralee, I got a call from the hospital saying they had an emergency. A young guy had been hurt on his motorcycle when he hit a car coming out of his driveway. It appears the guy was going over 80 miles per hour on a secondary road, and the man looked both ways before backing up, but the guy was flying low, and so he crashed into the side of the car just past the center pillar. He went through the glass of both windows. As he went through the car, his hands got caught on the center pillar and the rear superstructure of the car. He was badly mangled and needed a surgeon immediately, or he could lose both arms. Just as I was about to get on my bike and start the ride to Tralee, a police car pulled up driven by the sweet and charming Constable Amelia Kelly. "We've had a call from the hospital telling us to get you there quickly. There's no helicopter available, so get in," she said. I got in the car and put on my seatbelt. The police car was an Audi, and it got it moving. Tralee is only 27 kilometers from Castleroy, and we covered that distance in a matter of minutes. The police radio was chattering unintelligible gibberish, but Amelia paid no attention to it. We pulled up to the back entrance. "Go save a life. Call me when you need a ride back," she said. "Thank you." I got out of the car and headed to the hospital. A nurse met me, and we went to the emergency room to examine the young man. He was sedated. I examined his injuries and began to explain to the nurse what I needed. She took some notes and left. The ambulance chief quickly told me he was glad to see me. We chatted for a few minutes and went to the surgical suite so I could get ready for work. That's what I've been training for. I met the staff at the neuro and plastic surgery clinic while I was getting cleaned up and putting on my gown and gloves. I needed magnifying glasses and was given a pair. The neurosurgeon showed me a young man's driver's license. He was only 18. Why do kids think they're invincible? I spent 11 hours reattaching both of his arms to his hands. The neurosurgeon dealt with his head injuries, and the plastic surgeon worked on getting his face back to the way it was. The child's head had gone through the helmet, and his face was torn up in all sorts of places. When I was done, I was exhausted. I really needed the restroom. My bladder was bursting, and I needed food and rest. It had been the most stressful day since the day I found out Maddie cheated on me and had another man's baby, since the day I left. I talked to the nurse who kept the surgery schedule and learned the plan for the 8 surgeries I was to have over the next few days. The plan consisted of 2 surgeries a day for 4 days. It was a bit of a killer schedule, especially considering I hadn't had surgery in over a month. I decided I had to suck it up and get to work. The Irish had been kind enough to shelter me, so to speak, and I had to repay them for that. The scheduling nurse told me that they were counting on me to help them every 2 weeks and make sure they weren't too far behind with the surgeries. I guess I can do that. after finishing my work, I realized I had no way of getting back to Castleroy. I called the sweet and charming Constable Kelly. Half an hour later, a police car with flashing lights pulled up to the hospital. Her red hair was gathered into a ponytail. She's beautiful. What the hell am I supposed to do? 4 months later, Aaron, I had just finished seeing the last patient of the day and sent Nicole home. I heard the door open and yelled that we were closed for the day. I heard footsteps and then a voice. "Hi, Aaron." I looked up. Damn, how the hell did she get here? Hello, what brings you to Ireland? Yes, of course. It took me a while to find you. You look good. I sat down. Thank you. What do you want from me, Maddie? She looked good. Motherhood was clearly coming her way. She had put on a few pounds, but they were all in the right places. I want you to come home. I had a lot of anger to vent. I had to be careful not to go too far and do something stupid. I took a deep breath and exhaled. Why would you want to do that? I think you're missing a few important things. What do you think the consequences of you having an affair with that guy from your school would be? Did you really think I would just ignore the little fact that you have his kid? I may be naive, Maddie, but I'm not stupid. You have no right to have fun and ignore the consequences. I'm not the guy who's going to tell you it's okay, honey. I'm okay with you having another man's baby. I don't mind you having fun with men. Get your head out of your ass, Maddie. She decided that the view of the floor was interesting and continued to look down. Aaron, you have to come home. I need you and your daughter. Oh, for crying out loud, have you lost your mind, woman? I don't have a daughter. You and your boyfriend have a daughter. Let him watch his daughter. Go the hell home. But we've been married for 4 years, and we love each other. I love you, and I know you love me. Come home, please. You don't love me. If you love me so much, why were you having fun with that guy? Tell me that. You were never home, and I was lonely, and Roger was around, and we talked a lot. Oh well, so you're having fun with him. Just fine. I guess when did you get that head injury? The one that made you forget that we weren't supposed to be having fun with each other. Maddie had a hard time answering. Can you just think about it? I really miss you, and I know you can be a good father. I couldn't believe the nonsense that was coming out of her brain and mouth. And then I was saved. I heard the door open, and Amelia walked in. She was dressed in tight jeans and a sleeveless blouse, her hair styled, and she only had light makeup on her eyes. Amelia is very good, and today she looked especially good. When she walked in, I walked over to her and kissed her. I stood with my arms around her waist. Amelia, you're just in time. Let me introduce you to Maddie. Maddie somehow managed to find me here in beautiful Ireland, I said with a smile. Amelia stood with her arms around my waist, looking at Maddie like she was a mushroom on crackers. Amelia looked her over from head to toe, then turned to face me and said, Aaron, you won't be long. We're meeting my parents for dinner around 6 o'clock. No, Maddie was just leaving. We said everything we had to say to each other. I looked directly at Maddie. Isn't that right, Maddie? Maddie doesn't take hints very well. Aaron, we need to have a serious talk about what you're doing, Amelia intervened. Well, Maddie, we'll have to wait until another day. Aaron and I have to get on the road, or we'll be late, and my mom and dad are sticklers for punctuality. I'm sure you understand me now, Amelia gave Maddie a fierce look. If this was going on in a pub, the lads would have gathered closer, expecting a physical fight between the two women. In Ireland, you could sell tickets to see it. I wasn't going to give Maddie the hope that I was stupid enough to listen to her ramblings. She could talk until the proverbial cows came home, and it wouldn't matter in the slightest. After all, she was involved in a sexual relationship with another man and had a child with him as a result. I sympathize with the child. She doesn't get to choose who her mother and father are. She deserves a better mother than the one she got. I knew that my hard-working attorney had been to court and that the final dissolution of marriage certificate was imminent. Maddie was trying to escape having to raise a child alone and facing being a single mom. She should have thought about this before she started having fun with this guy and got pregnant. Jimmy made me aware of all the court dates and statements he had filed, and the judge acknowledged that the baby was not mine. The judge asked who the father of the child was, and MTI's attorney simply said that they recognized that I was not the father. According to Jimmy, the judge made a face in response that spoke volumes. In the end, Maddie would keep the house and our bank accounts instead of money from me. And since there were no children in our marriage, no further support in any form. I knew Maddie would walk away with a little over $90,000 after the sale of the house and our small savings account. But I considered the money well spent as a life lesson for me. I was in no hurry to find a placement for myself at the moment. I planned to spend a few more months here in Ireland, become a local doctor, assist in operations, and think about what I wanted to do. But life doesn't always go according to plan. Well, it didn't go the way I wanted it to. That hobo with the red hair interrupted me. I left the baby with my mom and dad at home and thought that if I came here and showed Aaron what he was giving up, maybe he would come home, and we could try to be a family. I've been trying really hard to lose the extra pounds from my pregnancy and get back into shape. I got back into my size 6 jeans and brought out the perfume that I know Aaron really likes. But then she showed up, and I know she was wearing Chanel perfume. I could smell it. That better think again if she thinks I'm going to leave without a fight. The hotel room I'm staying in is tiny. I can barely squeeze between the bed and the desk, and the TV is so old it has a picture tube. How the hell do these people live like this? I need to find something to eat and call my mom. She told me to visit her every day. She wasn't happy about taking the baby. She said she was getting a lot of questions, mostly from her friends who didn't know I adopted the baby. I don't think she is correcting them. Aaron, what the hell? This stunned woman actually showed up here in Ireland. How the hell did she find me? I have a good idea. One of my chatty relatives accidentally told her. She should listen more closely to what her lawyer tells her. The divorce is almost final, there's no going back. We're done. We're done. We're done. I was really happy to see Amelia. She made up the part about meeting Mom and Dad, at least I think she did. I took her out to dinner afterward. I took her to my humble apartment, and the next morning, I made her breakfast. Maddie, last night after having dinner, I took a walk around the village. It's nothing special. I can't understand what Aaron likes about this place. They call restaurants pubs. I learned that it's short for brothel. I learned that Aaron only sees patients 3 days a week. The people in the pub knew everything about him and surprisingly were willing to tell me almost everything they knew. I went back to my hotel, a small establishment run by a couple named Mary and Bill. She offered tea, and we talked about the doctor and how they really considered him a local hero. They told me about how Aaron had saved a policeman and about a traffic accident he had helped tourists in. Mary asked where I was from, and when I said I was from Albany, she looked at me wide-eyed and did the math. She realized that I was Aaron's wife. She quickly said she had some things to do in the kitchen and left me alone. I heard her and Bill talking in quiet voices. The next morning, I arrived at Aaron's clinic and was greeted by a teenager at the front desk. I told her I was here to see Aaron. She looked at me, and I knew she knew who I was. Word travels fast in this small town. I was told he would not be in today. It was surgery day at the hospital in Tralee, wherever it was. I asked when his next appointment would be. The teenager looked at the appointment book on her desk and said the doctor was busy all this week, maybe I could come back next Monday. My goodness, these people. I walked around the city some more and had a cup of terrible coffee. The weather was starting to be nice when I left the hotel, but now it was fogging, and the city seemed incredibly small. I had no idea where to go to wait it out. I didn't know where he lived. Maybe he was living with last night's red-headed skank. I'd ask around and see what I could find out. The mayor of Casterly, I received a call from Garda informing me that there was an American woman in town inquiring about Dr. Brown. She was staying with Mary and Bill at their hotel. It did not take Inspector Clouseau to explain that it was Mrs. Brown with whom we had parted who was trying to get our doctor to return to Albany. We had to put a quick end to it. A quick call from Mary informed me that this woman, Melinda Brown, had gone to the doctor's office looking for him. I knew he was in Tralee today, operating on the hips and knees of those who needed new ones. No, I needed to get the estranged Mrs. Brown to come home and leave young Aaron alone. Luckily, I have Constable Amelia Kelly on my team. Amelia is a world-class beauty who can attract any man just by looking at him and beckoning him to her with her index finger. She may be the most beautiful woman in the region and certainly in Casterly. I know that her career as a police officer is about to end as she has entered the law faculty of Trinity College Dublin. Her father is an alumnus of that college, and she will undoubtedly succeed there. I talked to Mary and Bill, and it turned out that the bed and breakfast would have to close immediately due to a safety violation. I had no choice but to tell the only guest that she had to leave immediately. Her belongings were packed and ready to move. Bill apologized profusely, gave her all her money back, and said he had booked a room for her at the nearest hotel with rooms available, which happened to be in Cairn. To say she was really pissed at Bill is to say that, we had to sacrifice everything to get a doctor for our town. Bill understood that very clearly. Maddie, the goddamn hotel just kicked me out, telling me some story about having to close because the state health inspector shut them down. And now I have to go to some place called Cairn, wherever it is. And it's raining hard. I hate Ireland. Also, my mom calls me and asks me when I'm coming home. Damn. I just got an email from school on my cell phone reminding me that my maternity leave ends in about a week and I'll have to go back to work. Amelia, here's the thing, I really wanted Aaron to meet my mother and father. He's probably the best of the best guys I've ever dated. He has real standards that he's not willing to give up just because someone, even his unfaithful wife, asks him to. That counts for something. My problem is that I will have to break up with him soon, as I will be moving to Dublin in August. Law school classes start, and I need to get there, get settled in, and ready for new endeavors. My other problem is that when I get to Dublin, I won't be ready to lead a celibate lifestyle. I like sex, I really do, so it wouldn't be fair to him to say that I still want to see him while I myself am doing it with other men. In the meantime, knowing that he won't be seeing other women, that would be wrong, so I have to end it, the sooner the better, I think, Aaron. I learned some important information from the Castleroy Gossip Network. I call it CGN for short. I know that Amelia is a long shot. I know her goal is to get into law school, and the Gossip Network has informed me, through Nicole, that she has been accepted and will begin classes in August. I know she is a very outgoing woman, and I know that in the long run, I am not the right person for her. I know that if I were with her, I would just wait for the day when I find out she is having sex with another guy, and I know that will eventually be the end of it for me. For my own salvation, I need to remember that my relationship with her is short-term and it's just entertainment. When she's ready, she'll tell me, and that will be the end of it. I'm certainly not going to say something stupid to her, use the LW, and promise her my boundless love. No, besides, there's a person or people I'd like to get to know a lot better than I know them now. 4 months later, Aaron, the doctor the Department of Health had promised to send in my place, didn't seem to be forthcoming. I haven't heard anything, so I called the hospital administrator in T.R. Lee and spoke to them. They said they would get back to me. That was weeks ago, but still no word. Amelia is a law student in Dublin, and we parted on very amicable terms. We both knew that our relationship would not develop into something permanent. We both knew we were just friends with benefits, but these were great advantages, Laura. It's been a few months since Amelia Kelly left for school in Dublin. I had been busy with work in Matilda, so my social life, as they say, had taken a back seat. So I was surprised when I got a call from Aaron inviting us to go with him to the fair in Cairn for the weekend. I figured with Amelia gone, the good doctor was lonely and wanted female companionship. Well, lucky him. I needed male company. I have needs too. When I told Matilda, she was very excited about going to the fair. She ran to her room to gather her clothes, even though it was only Wednesday evening and we were not going until Saturday afternoon. When Saturday came, I had completely forgotten that Aaron had a motorcycle and expected him to show up, and we would head to Carn in my car. To my surprise, he showed up with a car, an Audi sedan. Apparently, the mayor of Castle Roy had arranged a short-term lease for it at a very cheap rate. All he had to do was pay the insurance and fill it up with gas. It meant he could drive to TR Lee for his shift at the surgery in much greater comfort than if he had to put up with the fickle Irish weather on a motorcycle. Matilda climbed into the back seat and buckled her seatbelt, but I made her get out to put her baby seat in the car. She watched Aaron as he buckled it in. The fair was a lot of fun. Matilda didn't mind the rides, wanted cotton candy, and all the junk food I allowed. She walked around the fairgrounds holding Aaron's hand the whole time. I watched his face to see what he thought of his job. I think he liked it. After the fair, we went out for some real food and then went back to my house. I invited Aaron in. Matilda got into her pajamas, brushed her teeth without asking, and then went back into the kitchen, took Aaron's hand, and dragged him to her room. He was instructed to read a bedtime story. Half an hour later, he reappeared. She's a heavy sleeper. The food and fresh air have finished her off, I smiled at him. You've earned your drink. I handed him the wine glass. How do you do it? I was stumped by the question. What do you do? Spend your days caring for difficult patients and your evenings and weekends caring for your very busy daughter? I don't overthink it. I just do it. I can't remember my life before Matilda. She's the most important part of my life, everything else is secondary. He sipped his wine. How could your ex-husband refuse her? I don't understand. Some men aren't cut out to be husbands and fathers, he's one of those. If she was mine, well, I couldn't think about it. I never think about it. Matilda is my everything. I took a sip, but that doesn't mean I don't want more. I looked at him carefully. What do you want? We talked late into the night. He told me what it was like to be betrayed by his ex-wife, how he felt when he saw that her child was clearly another man's, how he felt cheated, how he'd been used. She had been unfaithful for a long time and hid it well. He told me that if she had been honest with him about not wanting to be married to him, he would have gotten a divorce, and she could live the life she wanted, and so could he. Aaron was divorced, and that gave him a sense of freedom that he was just beginning to get used to. There was a newness to his life, his eyes had been opened, and he was going to make sure history didn't repeat itself. He was going to be very sure of what he wanted and who he wanted to be with. I knew a little girl was eyeing him to make her new daddy. So far, so good. Jimmy, look, your divorce has been formalized for some time now. I sent you the original divorce decree, and I have a copy of it on file in case you ever need it. You're a single man in Ireland, and you can get into all sorts of trouble, Jimmy. I cannot express my gratitude enough. Just settle my bill whenever you receive it. Maddie's sudden appearance in Ireland had me worried. What could possibly be her motive for coming here? Her family was furious with her and urged her to straighten herself out. Despite that, she decided to give you one last chance. However, when you rejected her, she returned home and is still struggling as a single mother. And what about the father of her child? Well, he's dealing with his own issues with his wife and children, completely ignoring Maddie. He's terrified she'll demand child support, which he finds absurd. As for me, will I return home soon or fully integrate into Irish life? I'm undecided. I must admit, Ireland feels different, but I'm enjoying it immensely. I've met an incredible woman who I believe could bring me great happiness. She's a nurse practitioner and a devoted mother to her 4-year-old daughter. Yes, she's not my child's mother, but she never deceived or lied to me like Maddie did. There's a vast difference between them. Maddie's betrayal shattered me, leading to the end of our marriage and my departure from Albany. Distance seemed the best remedy. And you've certainly achieved that, my friend. Thank you for all your support. 2 years later, Aaron. Aaron, it's time. Let me grab the bag. I hurried to the closet, fetched the bag we had prepared, and readied myself to leave. I informed the hospital of our departure. My parents hovered around us as we stepped out of the house. Matilda embraced us tightly. "Bring me back a baby brother," I joked as I settled Laura into the car. The Garda provided a police escort to the TR hospital. 9 hours later, our daughter was born. I couldn't help but note that the next child might fulfill Matilda's wish for a brother. My parents and Matilda arrived at the hospital to meet Annabelle Marie Brown, who seemed unfazed by the attention, content to grasp my finger. "That's right, Laura. I have the final say. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have found a man eager to embrace family life, willing to take on the responsibilities of a husband and father from the start. Aaron is mine, though I'll share him with Matilda, Annabelle, and perhaps more in the future. It baffles me how some women fail to recognize their good fortune. Aaron's ex's foolishness turned out to be my gain. She lost him due to her own mistakes. When we found each other, we were two souls searching, and fate brought us together. I'm grateful we did. We're a family now, and if anyone dares to interfere, I'll handle it. As an Irish wife and mother, I won't tolerate other women eyeing my husband. That includes you, Amelia Kelly. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content.